obviously now it's been very well documented that Tyson Fury is going to fight Francis Ngannou. But one thing I just want to say is I find it's weird that there's a bit of an inverse relationship going on in boxing between the heavyweight division and everything else but the heavyweight division. So there's a common adage in boxing that says when the heavyweight division in boxing does great, it generally ups the level for the whole of boxing. So for example, when the heavyweight division is on fire, the rest of boxing generally does great. And to some extent that adage is true in boxing. Like for example, when we was going through that golden period where Anthony Joshua was on top of the world, British boxing was doing amazing. I think there was a time when there was like 16 world champions or something. Like boxing was on fire when they was doing like 80k in Wembley, and the heavyweight division was lit. Like, let's be real, there was very good competitive fights. Anthony Joshua was on top of the world. It did to some extent boost up British boxing and boxing in general. The people that fought on the shows where Anthony Joshua was fighting, I mean, it did blow up boxing. But I'll be honest with you, right now, let's just be honest about it, the heavyweight division does not look really hot right now. I mean, instead of getting the undisputed fight that we wanted with Usyk versus Fury, we're not getting that. What we're getting instead is fights that we don't want, fights that let's just be honest about it, fights that we don't want to see. For example, the Francis Ngannou versus Tyson Fury fight, we don't want to see that. We'd rather see Tyson Fury fight Sanchez, or obviously fight Usyk. That's the priority. But like obviously other heavyweight contenders that would want to watch him fight, but we're not getting that. So the fact is, right, the heavyweight division at this point is in tatters. I mean, the next fight that we're seeing is Dillian Whyte versus Anthony Joshua. Fight to some extent is a good fight as a rehabilitation fight for Anthony Joshua, but let's just be honest about it. It's a fight that's already happened, that we've already seen a conclusion of. It to some extent it's an inconsequential fight. But then again, it is a tune-up for a supposedly big fight in Saudi. But at the same time, like, it's not a fight that anybody's really clamoring to see. Obviously, I think it will do a good, decent gate because of the fact that obviously Anthony Joshua, Dillian Whyte are known entities in the heavyweight division, especially in Britain. But generally speaking, it's not a fight that people are really going out their way to see. Also, the Zhang versus Joyce fight, that's another fight that, like, let's just be honest about it, no one really cares that much. Like, it's a fight that we'll watch, but it's not a fight that we're clamoring to see. But what I would say is the fight that we are clamoring to see, the fights that we want to see, we're generally not getting them in the heavyweight division. Like, we want to see Tyson Fury versus Usyk. We want to see Wilder versus Joshua, but these fights are not happening. But one thing, so to some extent, you can say the heavyweight division right now is in tatters. It is really bad. I mean, it's just not looking good right now. But you could say at this point in time, even though the heavyweight division is dying and it doesn't look good, you can argue that the rest of boxing is doing amazingly well. Like, let's be real. Like, obviously, we've just seen the Inoue versus Stephen Fulton fight. Even though it's a one-sided fight, before the fight, that was seen as a super fight. It was a legitimate super fight. Stephen Fulton was this undefeated, unified champion who's very slick and a very good fighter, going up against Inoue, who already at that time, even before his great performance, was seen as pound for pound one of the best fighters in boxing. Obviously before that we saw the Gervonta Davis versus Ryan Garcia fight. We saw the Teofimo Lopez versus Josh Taylor fight. These are very good fights. We saw, I think, several other good fights that we saw this year. Lomachenko versus Devin Haney, again another barn burner of a fight, a contentious decision, but you can't deny the fight itself was incredible. And now this weekend we're going to watch Spence versus Crawford. So even though the heavyweight division is not doing great, I mean, you can't argue and say that the rest of boxing is doing terrible. It's not. It's doing amazing. So I think even though the heavyweight, usually that adage in boxing is correct. When the heavyweight division is doing well, the rest of boxing is doing well. But in this time, I think I'll be honest with you. Like, I actually think even though the heavyweight division is doing terrible at this moment in time, I would say that the rest of boxing is doing great. I mean, we're finally getting to see the Spence vs Crawford fight. It's a fight that everyone's been clamoring for, that everyone's wanted to see for the longest time. We're finally going to get it. And even before that, we're getting to see all these other great fights. like the fights that I just mentioned, like the Inouye versus Fulton fight, or the Lomachenko versus Haney fight, or the Davis versus Ryan Garcia fight. These are all great fights that we're gonna finally see. So yeah, so even though the heavyweight division ain't doing great, I think the rest of boxing is doing great. But what do you think about what I'm saying here? Is what I'm saying true, or do you think the rest of boxing is not doing great because the heavyweight division is not doing great? Tell me what you think below, and like and subscribe to the channel. I've got a lot more content coming your way. Peace.